What kind of lowlife pepper sprays a 76-year-old grandma over a garden gnome? That's the question I was screaming in my head when I screeched into Oakwood Drive, my heart pounding like a drum solo. The scene was straight out of a fever dream. Two goons in tacky blue polos, pretending to be neighborhood cops, were tearing through my Grandma Evelyn's flower beds. One was wrestling her garden hose like it was a snake, the other stomping her petunias with a flimsy clipboard in hand. And there, in the middle of this madness, was Evelyn, eyes red from pepper spray, swinging a rake like she was channeling a Viking warrior. I slammed on the brakes, jumped out of my car, and for one wild second, thought I'd see my sweet, pie-baking granny knock these clowns into next Tuesday. Spoiler, they weren't real HOA officers. They weren't even from our neighborhood. They were crooks, and by nightfall, they'd be in federal cuffs all because Evelyn, in her orthopedic loafers, refused to back down. It was a lazy Sunday, the kind where the sun's just warm enough and the birds won't shut up. Evelyn was knee-deep in her garden, humming to a fuzzy oldies tune on her beat-up radio. Her yard was the envy of Pine Hills, roses big as your fist, tomatoes so perfect the local grocer begged for them, and a mailbox painted like a giant daisy. She'd fought off bugs, heatwaves, and nosy raccoons to keep it flawless. But nothing could have braced her for the two strangers who marched up her path, barking about illegal landscaping and unapproved decorations. Evelyn, thinking they were just pushy salesmen, waved them off with a flick of her trowel. That's when the short Oni guy with a fake tan so bad it looked like he'd rolled in Cheetos whipped out a pepper spray canister and blasted her right in the face. She stumbled, clutching her cheeks, tears streaming. But Evelyn? She's not the folding type. This is the woman who once stitched her own knee after a ladder fall because the ER was too slow. So, she grabbed her rake and swung, nailing the taller guy in the gut. He crashed into her rosebush with a howl that probably woke half the street. That's when I pulled up, still on the phone with my buddy Jake, who was asking why it sounded like I'd driven into a bar fight. I chucked the phone and sprinted over. The fake officers were yelling about citizens' arrests and HOA violations, while the tall one wrestled his leg free from thorns. Evelyn, eyes burning but spirit like steel, had snatched the hose and unleashed a torrent into the short guy's face. He slipped, hit the grass with a soggy thud, and I swear the ground groaned. It was terrifying, hilarious, and hands down the craziest thing I'd ever seen. "Don't let 'em near my petunias, Mike!" Evelyn coughed, show-vying me forward. "They've had a rough summer." The goons froze, clearly not expecting a 6-foot grandson to crash their con. The clipboard guy bolted for their beat-up SUV, a fake HOA logo slapped crooked on the door. The other slipped again, sprawling on the wet pavement with a moan that made my teeth ache. Jake and our neighbor, Mr. Thompson, a former linebacker built like a fridge, charged in. Thompson tackled the runner just shy of the driver's seat, and Jake pinned the short guy like he'd been training for WWE. I pulled Evelyn behind me, dialing 911 with hands shaking so bad I nearly dropped the phone. This was Pine Hills, where last year's big drama was a squirrel stealing Mrs. Larson's pie. What was this madness? Cops rolled up so fast I wondered if they'd been hiding nearby, itching for action. In minutes, the fake officers were cuffed on the curb, looking like kids caught raiding a cookie jar. Evelyn, perched on her porch with a damp towel over her face, refused paramedics until her petunias got a drink. An officer took my statement, while another spoke to her softly. The scammers tried spinning some nonsense about neighborhood standards, but they didn't even know our HOA president's name. A dead giveaway. Then things got nuts. A plainclothes detective, Harris, peeled in with an unmarked car, all sharp jaw and eyes like chipped flint. After a quick huddle with the cops, he strode over to Evelyn, tipped an imaginary hat, and said, "Ma'am, you might have just busted a case bigger than this town." To the cuffed guys he growled, "You're not in hot water with the HOA. You're in it with the feds." Turns out, these weren't just small-time hustlers. They were part of a scam ring hitting elderly homeowners across 2 counties, using fake fines and threats to shake people down for cash. They'd hit 6 neighborhoods, dodging the law until they met Evelyn and her rake. As the sun dipped, police lights painted her garden red and blue. Harris said this was just the start. The scammers were tied to a bigger network, and Evelyn had kicked their hornet's nest. Our quiet street turned into a crime scene. Unmarked cars lined the block, agents posed as nosy neighbors, and the cuffed goons sweated in a squad car. Evelyn, sipping iced tea in a lawn chair, oversaw it like a queen. Harris pulled me aside, hungry for details: the fake badges, the clipboard, the SUV's magnetic sign. When I mentioned Evelyn's porch camera disguised as a birdhouse from her war on squirrels, his eyes gleamed. The footage caught the scammers' faces and their stolen rentals plates, linking them to crimes across 3 states. Neighbors spilled similar stories: weird lawn inspection notices, strangers snooping in backyards. The scandal spread like gossip at a church picnic. Mrs. Larson, our street's cookie queen, brought a tray for the cops, turning the chaos into a weird block party. Harris leaned into it, quizzing residents and tracing a pattern. The FBI's property crimes unit swooped in, and our little brawl became a federal sting. Evelyn, low VYing the spotlight, pitched a trap, a fake HOA event to lure more crooks. Harris, half laughing, half awed, gave it the green light. The plan? Senior Citizens Yard Awards. In Evelyn's garden, with banners, cookies, and a cash prize for the most compliant homeowner. It was so absurd it might just work. These crooks were no joke, tied to organized crime, real estate scams, even money laundering. They'd pepper-sprayed a grandma without a second thought. What would they do if trapped? Next morning, Evelyn's yard was a spectacle. Folding chairs lined the grass, a banner screamed, "Yard Awards," and tables sagged under lemonade and brownies. Undercover agents mingled as retirees. Kids ran around, and Evelyn, in a floral dress and hat, played the sweet old lady like a pro. Flyers had gone out, and we waited. Hours crawled by. Locals, clueless about the sting, munched snacks and praised Evelyn's roses. Just when I started doubting, a rusty sedan pulled up. 2 new guys in fake uniforms, badges glinting, strode in with clipboards. My pulse hammered. Harris gave a sly nod. The trap was on. The lead scammer, a slick-haired dude drowning in cologne, zeroed in on Evelyn, calling himself Officer Daniels, from the Homeowners Compliance Board. He ranted about code V violations, pointing at a gnome like it was a bomb. Evelyn, faking a panic, fumbled in her purse, gasping, "I've only got $2 $300, will that do?" His eyes lit up as he reached for the cash. Harris's signal unleashed hell. Agents burst from the crowd, tackling the men before they could flinch. The bigger one knocked over a lemonade table, but 3 agents pinned him. Slick Hair swung his clipboard like a sword, then crumpled under a tackle. Neighbors cheered like it was a touchdown. Evelyn, ever the diva, took a bow. At the station, Evelyn gave a statement sharp enough to cut glass. Slick Hair cracked, spilling names for a lighter sentence. Raids followed, uncovering fake IDs and safes stuffed with cash. Evelyn became a legend, joking she wanted a badge and a coffee maker at the precinct. Harris gifted her a cap reading, "Official Crime Buster," which she wore over her hat like a crown. News vans swarmed Oakwood Drive. Reporters dubbed her Granny Justice, and her quip about fighting raccoons and polo-wearing punks went viral, spawning memes and a local diners. Evelyn's Revenge. Milkshake. The real HOA, a petty bureaucracy, tried to save face with a plaque, which Evelyn said she'd used to fix her shed, humiliating them to applause. Her win sparked a revolt. Neighbors, sick of the HOA's nickel-and-dime fines, held driveway meetings and petitioned to oust the board. A leaked memo showed the HOA plotting to hush Evelyn, which lit a fire. A vote saw 90 Fan Tram ditch the HOA for a resident council. Evelyn passed on a formal role but got dubbed Community Nana, with coffee perks and block party veto power. Months later, her garden glowed under a sunset. "Should have swung that rake harder," she chuckled. Her fight didn't just save her petunias, it toppled a crime empire and rebuilt a neighborhood. Harris, sipping lemonade on her porch, said her stand led to dozens of arrests, and millions recovered. Evelyn, still in her loafers, proved you don't need a badge to be a hero, just a hose, a rake, and a grandma who won't quit.